Punched in the Jewels, How Europe Punked Putin. Please subscribe and check the links in the video description. It is no secret that I take sides in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I am not by any means unbiased, but bear with me for a moment. I am a keen observer of long-term economic trends, and I've made an observation. Europe has absolutely punched Putin in the Imperial Jewels, and it will be a generation before the Russian bear recovers. Their economy is slowly crumbling, and internal dissent and conflict is almost sure to follow. Russia largely did this to themselves by weaponizing Europe's ability to keep themselves warm in the winter. Sanctions do contribute to the economic struggles of the Russian economy, but they are not the primary cause of the collapse. The cause is market-based, and the European markets that Russia was so dependent on have simply moved on from Russia. Russia's use of its natural gas supply as a political weapon against its neighboring countries and the European Union has destroyed its reputation as a reliable supplier, and ultimately it is backfired in a way that benefits American natural gas producers primarily. Its strategy to squeeze Europe to appease Putin and accept his annexation of Ukraine, involving underdelivering gas in 2021 and then progressively squeezing Europe's supply and demanding payment in rubles, cutting off several countries, and closing the Yamal and Nord Stream pipelines has backfired. Russia's squeeze had a major and costly impact for Europeans. Gas prices surged to over 10 times the normal rate, causing inflation, reduced incomes, as well as slowing down economic growth. It was a cold winter in Europe, as many families had to cut back on energy to save on their bills. At the same time, Russia enjoyed record gas revenues, which increased by 55.7% in 2022, even as natural gas exports to Europe fell by 56.1%, mostly due to how high prices got during the emergency. However, the Kremlin's attempt to weaponize gas accelerated an already growing trend. If you've been a long-time subscriber to this channel, you've heard me talk about before the incredible promise that liquid natural gas holds for U.S. producers, how many facilities were being built in the U.S. to process and export liquid natural gas, and how many receiving stations were being built in Europe, and the vast fleet of LNG tankers that is being built worldwide. The boom in LNG exports and the ability for Europe to receive those exports has progressed at a rate that I did not believe was possible. It has led to an astounding adjustment. Pipeline supply of natural gas to Europe fell by 85% from pre-invasion levels, while the supply of shipborne liquefied natural gas soared. Europe's gas storage level ultimately hit a record high. This success resulted in gas prices falling hard, and the International Energy Agency suggests that Europe's effort to reduce gas demand should be enough to cover a complete cutoff of Russian gas next winter. Russia tried and failed to use its gas as a weapon. The liquid natural gas carrier fleet is only going to grow, and several more storage and receiving facilities in Europe will be online in the next 2 years. Russia has lost its leverage. Europe has no need to retaliate beyond the sanctions already imposed. The European market has simply moved on. Capitalism provided a solution when conditions demanded that Europe find a way to minimize the threat to energy security. What about China and India? Aren't they buying Russian energy? Well, yes they are, but let's look beyond the BRICS dinner theater. The friendship without limits between China and Russia has turned out to have a lot of limits. Mother Russia is basically the foreign boyfriend that Russia is too embarrassed to take home to meet the folks. China is absolutely putting the screws to Russia in terms of what they are paying for Russian energy. Russia didn't boldly decide to create a new economic world order by paying for oil or accepting orders for oil in yuan. They ran out of dollars and didn't have a choice. China is taking full advantage and setting prices in yuan, which leaves Russia in a tight spot when they need to exchange those yuan for some type of other hard currency while being frozen out of the international monetary system, officially forcing them through expensive sanctions-avoiding hoops. It seems like their friends without limits, China, is actually planning on some sort of dissolution of the Russian state as well, or it's just one heck of a troll. Chinese officials have started referring to some Russian cities and provinces by their Chinese name. So here's what's going to happen next. Russia is going to lose their largest trading partner and income source for a generation or more. Europe's gas resilience and independence from Russia is only going to increase the longer the conflict continues and Putin remains in power. The European Union will significantly raise its gas storage target. Second, the EU might end all purchases of Russian pipeline gas by decree, but capitalism will likely provide cheaper, more stable supplies anyhow as the global LNG tanker fleet grows. If the EU allows any Russian pipeline gas to be sold at all in the EU, it will likely require that it comes through Ukraine's pipelines, and I'd love to see how the Russian bear swallows that condition. Currently, the Ukrainian gas transmission system can accommodate more than 3 times the volume of Russia's gas supply to Europe. Europe would probably facilitate a levy on all Russian gas sales to Europe to finance Ukraine's reconstruction, which would raise the cost of Russian gas, making it less competitive. The EU should follow the UK and Germany and end all purchases of Russian liquid natural gas, but they may not, and even if they don't, it may not make a huge difference. Europe's liquid natural gas purchases increased by 63% in 2022. Almost none of it was supplied by Russia. Russia does not have a liquid natural gas tanker fleet. They can't get shipping insurance, and they have few warm water ports from which to export liquid natural gas, and thus a very narrow window each year in which they could export if they were allowed, even narrower if Ukraine actually manages to retake Crimea. Third, once Europe is no longer dependent on Russian gas, it's time to crush key Russian gas companies that support Putin and the oligarchs involved in the weaponization of the ability to keep warm in winter. Primary among them is Gazprom and Gazprom Bank. There really is no difference between these companies and the state. Russia has lost its status as a leading gas supplier to Europe. Its share of total EU imports declined to just 8% in the early months of 2023. At the same time, European gas storage is at record highs and prices have fallen sharply. While 2022's high energy prices did cause significant harm to the people of Europe, sanctions are not what is necessary to prevent a similar behavior in the future. In fact, once the dust settles on the Ukraine conflict, sanctions won't be more important than changes to the liquid natural gas market that were brought on by the weaponization of natural gas by Russia. These changes will reduce Russia's export earnings by billions each year for a generation. Their European market has shifted, kicked the Kremlin in the crown jewels, and has simply left Russia behind. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and check the links in the description for sources and goodies.